Well, welcome to the show here, ladies and gentlemen. This is Voices in My Head, episode 23. And Basil's got the wonderful guest, Miss Christa Lewis. Christa G. Lewis, if you want to get all formal and such. And, oh, hey, look at what I got over here. What's that you got there, Buffin? It's a shrink ray. Makes things small. Oh, really? Does it work? Well, let's try it. Whoa, gee! Whoa! Uh-oh. Buffin, you hit Basil's booth. Didn't mean to. You think you'll notice? Well, we'll find out, won't we? Now, oh, shoot, he's about to roll. Okay, on with the show.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us here today the lovely Miss Christa G. Lewis, coming from us from sunny Los Angeles. Well, not quite sunny by the look out the window there. It's darkish. It's nighttime. And which, you know, that's like the constant state for us here in Alaska at this time of year. We're just getting back to where the sun is still up at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock when I leave my day job.
Wow.
And so it's nice to be able to see. We still got to drive with the headlights on, but you can see more. So, but looks like you're sitting back, relaxing. You got the fire going.
I do.
Nice and
Lovely
comfy.
fire. It's very cozy.
Man, that is nice. I'm going to have to, that's putting me in the mood to light up our fireplace.
Well, you know, in California, when it dips below 60 degrees, you like the fire, because then it's cold.
Right.
That's Fahrenheit.
A buddy of mine down in San Diego this morning, or yesterday, was saying that it was 32 degrees when he woke up in the morning. Thinking, man.
Must be two fires.
Yeah, no kidding. One on each side to keep you warm.
Yeah, right.
So, anyway, welcome to the show, Christa. It's a pleasure to have you on. I've known you through Facebook for a couple of years now, and this is our first semi-quasi in-person meeting.
It is.
And it's wonderful to chat with you. Now, how long have you been in audiobook narrating?
Since 2012, so almost 4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
Now, you've got a lot of acting experience and broadcast experience prior to that, too. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a 4-year actor training, and I had 17 years at an international news broadcaster as one of their news readers.
Oh, wow. Can I ask which one?
Absolutely. I won't tell you, though.
Oh, okay.
Only kidding. I worked for DeutcheWelle television in Berlin, Germany, as one of their English language news readers.
So to work for them as an English language reader, did you also have to be able to speak German?
Nope. Not at all. Not at all. It helped if you could translate from the German, but it wasn't a requirement at the time. We just we got our copy in English, and we voiced it in English.
Now, did you live there the whole time you were doing that?
Yep.
Wow.
I was in Germany from 1995 till 2010 or 2011.
Wow.
Long time. Yeah.
Long time to be overseas. And how many differences did you see in America when you moved back? Or did you see differences?
I'm so unpopular with my friends because I've become a European somehow. And I'm such a critical human. But so I saw a lot of differences. I saw a lot of differences in public services. Things Germans take for granted are things that Americans have to pay for heavily, hugely, and they don't work here, like potholes in the streets. We were driving around in LA after the rains. A rain had come, and my boyfriend looked at me and he was like, I've been in third world countries. This is worse. And in Germany, you know, it would be ridiculous to say there are no potholes, but public services, things you would expect the government to be doing for you, pay your taxes for, they work. The streets function, the garbage works, all that stuff just happens in the background. And my dad once shouted at me, "You're the only person I know who likes to pay taxes." And I looked at him and I said, yeah, but I know what it goes for.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing. That was the biggest thing I noticed. I noticed that here there's a culture of dislike and distrust and dismay about government, about governance, and Germans they're not even having that conversation. It's not even a part of the culture to wonder if the government is too much or too little, because they're paying their public servants to go to work and do the job they pay them for. And they expect them to do their job. If they're not doing a good job, they get voted out.
Right, right.
But so that's one of the cultural differences I noticed.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting. And having been gone over that, so when you left, of course, you were thinking like most Americans, I would imagine, and saw it the same way. And then when you come back, it's quite different. And part of the reason I ask is because my wife is from Korea, and she had left in '85. We got married in '88, and she didn't go back again until 2003. And she said when she went back, her country had gone from being a rising third world country at the top of the level there to suddenly in 2003 being a first world country, competing with the U.S. and Japan and so on. And she said the difference in the place itself was so drastic that she could barely recognize many of the things, having not been there for 17 years.
I bet it was a huge shock. What I learned in my 20 years in America was that invincibility that I think I sort of carried with me, that sense of cultural invincibility as an American, that was treated to a huge dose of humble pie. And I learned it very early on. I was at my aunt's in Germany. I lived there for about a year or so before I found my own job and my own flat. And I was listening to the radio one day, and I listened to about 17 different languages, and it occurred to me that Germany was surrounded by all these different countries, and they all had different agendas, and that at the time, in the early 90s, as an American, all I ever heard was English. My universe was English. I mean, I grew up bilingual because my mom was German, but I realized the Germans don't live in that universe. They live in a universe where they have to be very politic, and they have to be, a universe of shifting alliances. And there were still, at the time, before the wall came down, there were still Russian tanks on their borders with guns pointed at, spots in Germany. And it dawned on me then, and it stayed with me for my entire time, because then I ultimately moved to Berlin after the wall came down. It dawned on me that Americans are just a part of the global conversation.
Right.
And they were very little impacted by global events because they were so far away and were, rightly so, very inured to many of the events that were happening. And then I got into the news, and of course I was you get bombarded by 17 years in the news. But it was an international news broadcaster, so it was all about the news everywhere. And so I gained a kind of global perspective. And then when I came back here, and in LA, for example, even when it says World News Tonight, it's really the unfortunate shooting, 3 blocks away, or the helicopter in the car, and the blah, 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 blah. So there's very little world news context, and you have to go far afield to get that. I don't know. It's very different. But that having been said, there were more job opportunities here, because Germans kind of aim for work, and then they live in those jobs for their whole careers. I once moaned to my aunt about the money I was making as a prop girl at a huge theater in Hamburg, and she looked at me, she said, "What are you talking about? That's a fortune. Families live on that for their entire lives."
Right.
And I looked at her and I was like, huh? Because I thought, I would get promotions and raises, and they just don't even do that at all. And after a while, you adjust. You adjust. The culture is very different. The expectations are different. The quality of life is very different. And but at the end of the day, to make my way or to create something new, I had to be in a place like LA where things change all the time. And I needed that. And that's what got me into audiobooks.
So how exactly did you fall into this audiobook business? Because, I mean, as we all know, those of us who've been in broadcast, whether it's television, radio, whatever, it's very different from audiobooks. How did you make that transition? What brought you to audiobooks?
It was, I was here on a holiday, and my dad treated me to a commercial voiceover class, and after 17 years of being a news voice, I was just excited. It was brilliant. I was learning something new. I was doing commercial voiceover. I had 11 people to exchange failures and successes with, and it was just really fun. And so I was blah, 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 blah with my boyfriend on the phone, and he just simply said very quietly, he was like, "Oh, it sounds kind of like you want to stay." And that is absolutely not what I was saying. I was just saying how exciting and how fun this class was, and it was something totally different than news broadcasting, and I just went, in my soul, I had this sort of moment of like, if I don't say no, something will change. So I didn't say no, and I stayed. And after that, I learned very quickly that I was, with all my 17 years of news broadcasting, I was kind of a dinosaur for the LA commercial voiceover market. My voice print was what they were doing here in the 80s and the 70s.
To say you sounded like a European voice announcer.
Yeah, I sounded too pedagogical, and I sounded too picture-perfect articulation. And but those same qualities, that same practice, I had been calling around. I needed a studio for a German client. Deborah Dion happened to be on the other end. She said, "Do you do audiobooks? Call my husband now. Call my husband now. Call my husband now." And I did, and within 5 minutes I had an appointment with him, and I just intuitively understood that the things that were going to be a challenge for me in terms of commercial voiceover made me a perfect fit for audiobooks. I was used to long shifts. You know, I'm a shift worker. You know, I work 10-hour news shifts, 8-hour news shifts. I talked all the time at the microphone. You know, I had hundreds of thousands of hours of practice at the mic. And so, and with the actor training, I just, instinctively I realized audiobooks are going to be a good fit while I learn how to be a commercial voice actor and while I become viable for the market here and other things. So and Bob Dion put me on his roster, and then Penguin Random House put me on their roster, and I did my demo with Pat Fraley at one of his demo weekends and understood very quickly about the ACX thing, and immediately put my price range at $200 to $400 because, you know, I have been talking into microphones for my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
And a friend of mine said, "That's not going to work. You need to have a couple of books under your belt before anybody pays you." So I did, you know, as we all do. I did a few of the first ACX books for free, but I was such a prima donna, and I was I wrote Audible a really shirty email at like book number 13 and said, you know, "I bring 20 plus years to the microphone and my ex blah, 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 blah." So they made me Audible approved way early. They were quite kind, actually. And
scared. They might have been scared.
Or scared, yeah. So I'm not such a prima donna anymore, hopefully. But at the time, I didn't understand. I just didn't understand the American system at all. And in Germany, when the reader or the speaker or the voicer walks into the room, you are on an equal level with everybody in terms of respect for the profession.
Right.
So in other words, it's not Christa that walks into the room, it's her profession. And the minute I walked into many jobs, they'd be like, "Oh, finally, the speaker's here. Look, we have a question for you." And they would ask for your expertise because the expectation is always that you've been trained and you have, you know, 1,000,000 trillion hours of experience and blah, blah, blah. And here, because, you know, often we learn by doing and we reinvent ourselves so often in this country.
Right.
But he asks for your expertise. They look to see if they like you personally. And if they get a good vibe off of you and you seem trustworthy, then they're like, "Okay, we're in good hands." Right? You know what I mean? It's just a different thing.
It's a different kind of old boys network.
Yeah, in a way. So I thought, here I come with all this expertise, and everybody was like, "Open your mouth. What can you do?"
Right.
So it was different. It was really different.
Now, when you transitioned, when you did your first couple audiobooks, how did you feel that compared with your news profession and with your acting in the past?
Well, it engaged it. It engaged my acting. And I immediately realized, oh my gosh, I'm dusty. So I went and I took some voice and speech classes. I found a Linklater teacher. Linklater was the technique taught at Boston University, which is where I got my conservatory 4-year theater training, and we had 4 years of Linklater training. It was brilliant. So I found somebody here that did that, and I started taking improv classes because I just understood that all these skills and all these, I hadn't used them in ages. You know, I'd been reporting about Slobodan Milosevic at The Hague and all this new stuff, and I had become a really heavy-duty kind of the voice of doom, if you will. So
I just can't picture you as the voice of doom. Maybe there's another side that I just haven't.
Gosh, I was so the voice of doom. I was just like ba-bum, 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 ba-ba-ba-bum.
See Krista's forehead up above the tower in Mordor.
You never got to hear me. You never got to see me, but you sure as heck heard me. And yeah, I was like, I thought, my God, after a while, I thought I sounded suicidally depressed. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so I began to reactivate all those skills from yongs ago.
Excellent.
And I thought I was going to make it big here in nonfiction. And I got hired by B Audio, and bless her, Jackie gave me 3 nonfictions, and then somebody must have told her, we don't give nonfiction to women if it was written by a man. So she stopped giving me nonfiction, which was sad for me, because I thought that was my skill set, you know, after all the news.
Right.
And but then I started engaging, you know, I started really sort of reawakening all my acting stuff, and it was, yeah, I had to learn how to record.
Doing it all yourself now.
Oh, that was just ugly for a long time. Lots of tears before bedtime, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I figured that out.
That good steep learning curve. Now, so when your first couple of books, were they pretty good books? Did you select winners?
I was lucky they selected me. I got found by this lovely man, Dr. Clay Kaler, and he picked me, and it was a nonfiction, it was a religious book, a theological-based book, and I felt genuinely grateful. It was a great, important book. And it was a 90-minute nonfiction, and it took me, and I'm always shocked by this, but it really is the truth. It took me, 3-4 hours to record it. I was sort of one-take Sally, but there you go, my first book. And then it took me 100 hours to edit it.
Yeah.
So that was my first book.
Oh, wow.
So, and yes, no, I don't have the golden nose or the golden earlobes. I never pick one of those ACX royalty share winners. I just don't know how to do it. I'm not clever like that.
My royalty share experience has been modest at best. One series that's taken off, and believe it or not, it was one that I thought wouldn't get out of the starting gate. And I wasn't going to audition I wasn't going to accept the second one because I thought, oh, no, this just is not for me. Boy, once those paychecks start rolling in, that can be a mind changer. Okay, I'll learn to tolerate this. I got 7 books in the series. I got 3 left to go. And it's
That's
my
brilliant.
bread and butter. It's good stuff.
Fabulous.
But I still don't know why people buy so much of it. It's a zombie series. I'm just not into it. But it is
Zombies are so big right now.
Huge. Not my thing. And I'd never read one before. I've done some horror stuff, and it didn't do so great. Some of it did okay, but I have that voice that can scare people, apparently. Or at least get
real conversation. Early days, I call up my boyfriend in Germany. I'm like, honey, it's all vampire porn. And he goes, that's okay by me. I'll listen to it. I was like, oh.
Hey, it's going to pay the bills. Let it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have some fun. You can learn something.
True. Absolutely.
You can bring out of the booth.
So you're the go-to zombie guy.
Well, apparently for this series at least.
Well done.
This author, this is a good series. It's a good story. It's just one of those things, while you're reading, it's like, oh man, how am I going to get through this 13-hour book? And the royalty share. Oh, but I tell you what, you get a couple $5,000 checks coming from one book. It's like, oh, crap. Yeah, I've doubled my PFH on this, so we'll roll.
That's excellent, Basil.
It's great that way. But that doesn't usually, and I had 60 books before I hit that one. You know, and dozens of them that have sold like 10 copies over 10 years.
I can't speak for other narrators, but I'm ready to all but give up on royalty share because I just feel like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I'm very picky on them. I only do ones from authors that are friends of mine that I've known for years, or books that I know will sell. This one just hit me when I was in between a couple of contracts. I had a few weeks, and I thought, I'll try it.
Okay.
It's taken off. So that was nice.
Oh, lovely.
But back to you.
Yeah.
So you got into the audiobooks. You tried the ACX thing. You're working for multiple studios. Now, you work there in L.A. Do you find it's a lot easier to get work being there at kind of one of the entertainment hubs of the world? Or is it not noticeably different?
It's interesting because as on Facebook, you and I are friends on Facebook, and I've read every now and then when you've posted that you've, done one of those Audible contracts and stuff like that. And for example, that was one of my goals, an Audible contract, 13-week contract. I thought that would solve everything. Mm-hmm. But this was not something I could ever intrigue or entice Audible into giving me. And for a long time I thought, okay, because I'm non-union. And then thanks to being, in the union, I got into the union, blah, blah. And so, but still. And then I thought, okay, I just need a few more books under my belt, and maybe that will be intriguing and enticing to them. And it was not. So from that sense, I could have been anywhere. Do you know what I mean? I would have succeeded or failed from anywhere. And I have this conversation quite often because my guy is in Germany and I'm here, and it's really uber long distance. And it's been a struggle. LA is a tough town. And but the few times I did get to go to those networking meetings, like the APA mixers, I did get to meet a few people. And then I would follow up with an email. And then 2.5 years later, it worked out. And so now it's 2016, and last year I was so fortunate. Blackstone gave me a chance. And it was the first directly from a traditional publisher. I've worked sort of, through a subcontractor for some traditional publishers, but mostly it was ACX, and except for a few books about 8-9 books from B, which I enjoyed very much. But Blackstone gave me a chance. They shot me an audition, and it worked out. And is that because I got to meet their guy at the party and was emailing him all 3 years? Would it have worked out if I had just been emailing all 3 years? I cannot tell you the answer. I think I really don't know. I think it's serendipity either way. How we all... So to those people who aren't in a major hub, just keep doing what you do and, break in somehow. Find your own unique way to keep going, because that was, of course, the question that several times we've asked ourselves, like, why am I not going back to Germany? And I keep thinking, well, maybe I just need to be here. So I have to just say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. I genuinely don't know.
That's actually a good answer. I mean, from my opinion, because I've wondered times in the past. I've known people who left Alaska or other places. A close friend of mine left Alaska to pursue his acting career. He moved to Vancouver in British Columbia, and and it's taken off since he moved there. And he's in a lot of TV commercials. You see his face all over the place. Of course, they don't give credits on TV commercials, so you won't know, hey, that's James Yee. Right. But Jimmy's on there doing commercials all over the place, TV shows. He's in half the various different type of soaps that go on that are based out of Vancouver. He's got some bit part or a major part in them. And I thought, man, maybe I should move. And because I wanted to do the same thing. We're the same age, kind of running out of time to really break into the acting thing, for screen stuff at least. unless I want to play the fat middle-aged guy and everything, which is what I am, so I guess I'd have to.
Yes, that type is making gajillions on TV right now, everywhere you look. So
actually, I don't watch TV, and the other night I was at the VA hospital getting some going there for an appointment, and I looked up on the TV and they were playing, it was a Modern Family, and I was like, whoa, that's that guy from Married with Children. He's in that show. Look at him. I could play that part. Mm-hmm. I could do that. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not moving to LA or Vancouver. And it turns out that this audiobook thing, I get the same amount of acting experience, probably more money and less stress, and I can live in the place that I love. So,
to be honest, I think here in LA, I wouldn't have met Deborah Dion. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have met some of the fabulous people I have met and the networking I've been able to do. I would not have done anywhere else.
Right.
And if I had started this in Berlin with my job at DeutcheWelle television, I had the sense that, if my career would have gone would have flatlined at some point for me. But here I still have the opportunity to really take off.
There's a lot more.
Because there are some things that I would still like to break into. And there are audiobook challenges I would still like to take on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, in addition to performing audiobooks, you also do coaching, don't you?
I do. I teach. Right now I'm teaching for the VO Dojo. Tish Hicks hired me to be one of her...
do you have to wear a ninja suit to do that?
I am called a sensei. So you would just want to, get that attitude all strapped down, buddy. I do. I get to teach, and I love it. I love it.
That is excellent. So you're doing mostly your teaching through Skype and
Nope. I teach in person twice a month, and I have privates all the time, and people come here because her curriculum it's a 12-month program over 15 months. So we get them from the beginning to their demo and beyond.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. So students coming in and going out and being successful and kind of boost your ego when you see them do good.
It's just profoundly moving. I love participating in the process.
That is good. That is really good. And on top of narrating and coaching, you also are a supplier. You recently took on the Studio Bricks market for the U.S.
I'm not his supplier per se. I am his showroom in Los Angeles. He does have a supplier. Miguel Donoso Cortez is the real supplier, and he's based in New York City.
Oh, it is? Okay, because I thought they were based in Spain.
Oh, no, the U.S. distribution or the U.S. supplier.
Okay, so now they have a supplier in the U.S.
In the U.S. They do not yet produce in the United States. All production is in Spain. And if people are in the area and they want to come see the booth, then they contact me, or I do a little of, my social media magic, and people that come around and see the Studio Bricks. And I would talk about this booth no matter what anyway. So now I talk about it to people who really want to buy one.
That's pretty nice. And you really like the booth?
I love the booth. It's exquisitely beautiful, and it's built like Legos. It's literally built in pieces that snick and slide into each other, so it's more transportable, and it's why I got my first one, because Stefan doesn't come to the States very often, and I thought, if I move, I'm going to have to move it by myself, probably, so I may as well be able to. And it's a great space to work in. Really.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, did you have a different kind of space before that, a custom-built space or a closet, or...
No, I started in a closet, and then I had a basement, and then I had a booth, because I was having a meltdown. I was recording in this basement, and it was 3:00 in the morning, because it was the only time you wouldn't hear all the buses and the people tinkling and the phones ringing and the blah blah blah. And I was really frustrated because I'm a perfectionist, and finally I'm texting with my boyfriend, and he's like, what can I do to help? And I snapped. It was really late at night, and I texted him. I was like, you can come here and see what I'm up against. And you know what? Bless him. 3 weeks later, there he was, and he came down into the cellar and he listened for 2 minutes, and he went, oh, you need a booth. And I was like, ah! I've been telling you this for a year. That's when we got the booth.
Cool.
Yeah, that worked out.
It really transformed what you were able to produce, I'd imagine, too.
Yeah, and it takes your stress levels down by about 1 trillion notches, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. So, inside the booth, are you PC or Mac?
I'm a Mac girl, always have been. Well, no, since 2009, I've been a Mac girl. So I'm Mac in the booth because I have a dedicated Mac Mini. I got it for $400 on Craigslist. It was awesome. So I just recorded.
Is that you have it in the booth with you?
No, sir. Do you want to see it?
Sure.
You see the setup? I'll take you with me.
That's the nice thing about portable computing, ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen.
sir. So let me see if you can. Here, let me turn the lights on. So here, as the lights go on, wait, let me see if I've got you angled correctly. So can you see my Mini at the bottom?
The Mini's at the bottom?
Yep, and those are my 2 external hard drives. One is the Mac backup, and one is an external hard drive just for books. And then on the middle shelf on the right, your right, is my preamp, and then there's my Mackie Big Knob and an extra monitor that I have, an extra screen for students. And then, sorry about the mess, and then this is the Studio Bricks. This is my booth.
Nice.
Yeah. So all I have in the booth, so the cables run to the Mini, and all I have in the booth then are, the iPad and the monitor and some headphones and stuff like that. And the ventilator in the bottom. I love my ventilator.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice thing that I don't have in my custom-built booth. The ventilator is the door.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I use it too. I use the door as well. I don't always run the ventilator, but I can record with it on low, which is wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that, a couple of years ago, I was hoping to get a Studio Bricks, but just couldn't afford shipping from Spain when I was looking for it at the time. There wasn't a U.S. distributor. I think there was one that was moving into Canada. This is like 2010, 2011.
He was considering Canada, but it didn't work out.
And I couldn't find a used one, and I'd missed a deal on one of those audio booths for like an audio, the hearing test labs.
Those echoes, they're amazing. They're bunkers.
They are. There was one for sale out in Wasilla, out in Sarah Palin's hometown. One of the hospitals had remodeled, and they were selling their old stuff on Alaska's list, which is like Craigslist for Alaska.
Right.
And I missed it by like 24 hours. Someone had picked it up. So I built my own. This is a custom-built booth that I'm in, and it's almost as good, but not nearly a Studio Bricks, not nearly as beautiful. Mine's like the carpenter. I'm the style of carpenter of like a mechanic who has the partially built cars in his front yard. That's my carpentry technique. Once it's livable, it's done. So
got it.
So,
but as long as it works, you know what I mean? As long as you can just sit down and record and not stress out about external ambient noise, you're good to go. When people come in here to look at the Studio Bricks, I tell them about all the other booths I ever researched. I tell them the pros and cons, and because it's a huge, big whack of money.
It's a lot of money.
And you just have to, there are pros and cons to every system. No system is perfect, and you just have to figure out what works for you.
Right.
And at the end of the day, for me it came down to, I was mostly alone most of the time, so I wanted something easy to disassemble. And the Gretchen that I was interested, Gretchen produces in Oregon. They were going to charge me the same $1,300 that Studio Bricks charged me to ship from Spain. And so then for me, it was a no-brainer. Yeah. It was going to cost the exact same for shipping. and I was going to get something that I could actually pull apart and put together almost by myself. So.
Well, that's really nice and really cool that someone can walk into your shop down there in LA and say, "Hey, I want that one."
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And it's fun because it breaks up the sort of, the isolation that, well, maybe you don't have as much because, you're surrounded by family, but it's just me and the cats.
That would be a hard one on me. I know my kids take off for college here over the next, one this year and the last one in a couple of years. Then it'll just be me and my wife and our dogs. And so we'll see how well I can handle that. But I can handle her just fine, and the dogs, but that emptiness when she's not there, when she's at work or off at the gym, and it's just me and the dogs, and I don't feel like throwing a ball. Want some conversation. I don't know. That'd be a pretty hard one. So,
yes.
A lot of respect for you.
It's anxiety. I think something about the audiobook narration career, you have to really sort of, there's a muscle that you have to grow about the anxiety that, the uncertainties of it to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, for example, have those contracts or, a nice plummy series going on and you're just kind of going along book to book. And then I force myself to get out and meet people and stuff like that. Because otherwise, I'd be crazier than I already am.
Well, I know last year I went to my first APAC. And that was a blast. Being able to meet people that I'd talked to online for 4 years but hadn't met, it was awesome. And I'm going back this year. And
super.
Being able to go to events like that really take you out of this kind of sequestered world that we live in as narrators.
Absolutely.
Put you out there so you don't go totally bonkers on your own. Yeah. Speaking of bonkers, my roommates would like to come up and ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
The Leprechaun brothers, Feely, Neely, Boffin, and Berthold, would like to come up and ask you. And as well, their butler, Gerald the Troll, will probably be joining the conversation as well. He recently was hired on last year and has been quite a interesting person to deal with. So, boys, would you like to come up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Basil. Hi. Oh, look, that's the Christa Lewis. Look, she's got that smile that we see on Facebook all the time. Oh, that's wonderful. She's living the dream, as they say. Aren't you, Miss Christa?
I am, Mr. Which one are you?
This is Feely. I'm the oldest out of 4 brothers. I'm usually the spokesman to begin with.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, Feely.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, you're affecting an Irish accent. That was very nice.
I am. You just bring it out in me.
Well, that's wonderful. We like to bring things out of people. Speaking of bringing things out, my brother Buffin, he's the 3rd brother. Not that he's a turd, he's not. He's actually a relatively nice, although not terribly intelligent young man. But he has the first question for you. So go ahead, Buffin, ask the question. Okay, I'm very curious because I've never tried this before. When you moved to LA, did you go surfing? And if not, would you be willing to?
No. Actually, no, I can't get myself on a surfboard because I'm not really svelte, and my boyfriend is afraid of sharks, So we stay out of the water.
Well, I learned a long time ago that you can scare a shark away by punching him in the nose.
Well, if you come with me the next time I do it and punch him yourself, I'd happily take you along.
Well, I'll have my brother come. He can do the punching, because I got short, stubby arms.
There you go. It's a date.
You don't realize how close you have to get to a shark to punch him in the nose until you realize that at 3 feet tall, your arms are only 18 inches long. And that's close to a shark.
That's uncomfortably close to a shark, I must say.
Yes. So, what kind of things did you do for excitement when you lived in Germany?
Oh, in Germany for excitement? Well, I did a lot of polka dancing.
Oh. Did you wear a polka dot skirt when you did it?
You do. You wear polka dot skirts and you put big bows in your hair and you carry these big steins of beer.
Oh, I like this dance already.
The trick is to wrap your left arm around your partner and hold the stein of beer above his head without splashing any onto his head.
That's a trick. But I could solve that trick for you, because I got this hat that has a brim on it and a straw that goes right into my mouth, so you can pour all you want.
Well, it sounds like Germany is a place you need to visit.
I think we need to go there, brothers. We've never been to that side. Okay, so Bertold, he's the youngest brother. He has a question for you now, too.
Hello, Bertold.
Hello. My name is Bertold. I'm the youngest by actually a century and a half from the oldest, but not so young as I'm a total newbie, although some people would consider 67 years old pretty young. So, what the question I have for you is, when you were transitioning from going to America to over in Germany and then back to America, what was the difference in the taste of the beer?
So in America, when I drank beer in the 80s, that's several incarnations ago, it tasted a little thin and tinny. And then when you get to Germany, the beer tastes kind of like a meal. It's sort of thick and sweet.
Ooh.
And then you come back to America and you don't drink beer anymore. Because, it's California, so you drink wine. Lots and lots of beautiful wine. And once in a while, somebody talks you into drinking one of these very exotic, strange named beers, like IPA or Ipanema or the Wacky Cuckoo Papa. And then you drink that and you just think, it's not the same as German beer, so you just don't drink more.
Isn't the Wacky Cuckoo Papa one, isn't that Hawaiian? It's made with pineapples, right?
I'm just not a connoisseur of beer.
Okay, well, neither am I. I just drink a lot of it, so I tried to figure this out, so I know what to avoid. Because pineapple in beer, that would be Wacky Cuckoo Papa.
There you go. But LA, Los Angelinos are very specific about their beers. They've got breweries here, people buy specialty beers, and people know what they're talking about. Sadly, I do not.
Well, our brother Neely, he brews a pretty stout lager that's really tasty, and he only brews it in the basement of Basil's house, and we don't know where he gets the ingredients, and we're afraid to ask. But sometimes Gerald, the butler, comes back with an entire moose, and it disappears and we haven't seen him eat it, and sometimes the beer tastes a little meaty, so I don't know what's going on with that. So,
does it stick to your tongue? Is a little fuzzy as well?
It can.
Well, I think...
And after two, you feel really full. So, I have a hypothetical question for you that can kind of maybe throw you for a loop, but it may also help us to define who you as Christa G. Lewis actually are deep down in your heart of hearts.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Here you go. The question is, if you were trapped on a desert island, or desert island, it could be dessert, I never get those two words right. If you were trapped on an island somewhere, what book would you want to have with you, and whose voice would you want it to be read in if you could have the audiobook and actually be able to listen to it?
I am not as well read as some.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not well read at all. I'm unwell read.
I would want the book I just narrated for Blackstone called 40 Rooms, written by Olga Grushin. And I would want it narrated by either my friend Rosemary Benson.
Oh, Rosemary's a nice lady. We know her.
She's lovely, and she's miraculously talented audiobook narrator. Yeah, I would want it narrated by her or Emma Thompson, just because I'm addicted to the sound of her voice as well. So it would be a battle. I can't decide. Rosemary, Emma. Rosemary. I guess Rosemary.
Well, that's really nice. That would be a lot of fun to have. Especially good to have a nice voice if you're going to be stranded there for like 5 years and you got to listen to it over and over and over and over.
Absolutely. But it's such a good book.
There you go. That makes it worth it.
Yeah, it was great.
Now,
And
in your own reading pleasure, do you reread books that you've already read before?
No, I'm an audiobook narrator. I don't have time to read.
That's smart.
My synapses are so melted. They're dead. I have only audiobook narration synapses left.
Yeah, Basil's like that. He only reads what he gets paid for. He makes us read the rest of them.
There you go.
So, okay. Well, thank you very much. I think that's all we have. Do you have anything to add to that, Feely? No, I don't have anything to add. It's been a pleasure talking to her. And I just got to say, you have the nicest smile. It's always big and bright and wide, and your eyes smile with your mouth. And so, if I could sing, I'd sing you a song, but I can't, so I'll spare you. We'll see you.
Thank you all. It was lovely and fun.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure meeting you, ma'am. Yeah, it's been a pleasure meeting you. We'll see you later. And let's have some of that there. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks. Well, thank you, Christa.
Thank you, Basil.
That was a very good interaction. They were pleasant with you. They didn't seem to throw you for any real loops, as they occasionally do sometimes.
Okay.
And so, well, thank you for joining us on the show. I really appreciate getting to know you better. Am I going to see you at APAC this year? Are you gonna be
Yes. Kicking, dragging, and screaming. I will be there with bells on.
Yay! Well, last year I told Johnny I'd be at his workshop with bells on, and he almost barred me from the workshop. So,
I see.
he said no bells. But that's probably just me.
Okay.
Sure, he'd let you wear bells. So.
Well, then we'll get to see each other in Chicago.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Very much. Appreciate it.
Bye. Lots of love to Alaska.
So, well, what do you think? Do you think they noticed Basil was so small? Well, they didn't say anything. Okay, well, do you have a reverse on that shrink gun? I'm still working on that. Uh-oh, he's opening the door to come out. Hey, holy cow! Whoa! What happened? Who made the car so big? Whoa! Feely, you're really tall. What in the world is going on? Sorry, Mr. Basil. We're working on the fix. Wait, Oh, wait, you mean I'm this small? Fix it!
The next episode with Mr. Chris Barnes will hopefully be on a larger format, I think. This is Gerald, and this is Voices in My Head. Copyright 2016, by a rather diminutive Basil. Bye.